All right, good evening, everyone. This is Andrew from BrainPOP, and we are thrilled to have you tonight to learn more about the connection between BrainPOP and Newsela and some of the great ways to use these two tools together. I'm joined tonight by Emily from Newsela and Cathie, who is both a certified BrainPOP educator and a Newsela certified educator. She's got both of these things. So she's going to be sharing some incredible ideas for how to use these tool products together in really dynamic and interesting ways. It was fun. Last week we were having a conversation and thinking about different ways to describe the connection between these two products. And it's almost like, you complete me, if you remember the Austin Powers jokes, and or two great tastes that taste great together. So we're really excited to talk about that. We're really, really thrilled that over 100 of you have joined us tonight just to learn about how these tools work together and hopefully begin using it with your students. So my name is Andrew Gardner. I do professional learning at BrainPOP. I was a teacher for 12 years before that. But I was doing tech integration, and now I'm at BrainPOP. Cathie, do you want to introduce yourself?
I'm Cathie Gillner. I'm from a suburb right outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I teach a course called Mobile Device. I'm in a middle school one-to-one with iPads. So, and I have a gamut of, I've taught elementary all the way up. So it's lovely to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Cathie. And Emily?
Hi, I'm Emily. I am also part of the professional learning team at Newsela, similar to Andrew's role. And prior to joining the team, I was an elementary school teacher at the public schools in New York City. And I still teach graduate school at Hunter College, working with in-service New York City public school teachers.
Terrific. So we are the presenters this evening. I'm going to get through the intro stuff and we'll get right into it real quick. So I'm going to move on the slide. So here we are, Andrew, Cathie, and Emily. That's our contact info. We'll share it again later within the chat. Here's our schedule. So we just did the welcome. We're doing a little bit of an overview. We're going to have some poll questions in just a second. After we answer those questions, we'll talk quickly myself just about what is BrainPOP if you're not familiar with that. And Emily will share what is Newsela if you're not familiar with that. And then we're just going to hand it off to Cathie, who's going to talk about lots of creative ways of using these two tools together. After about 20-25 minutes of hearing from Cathie describing ways of using the things together, we'll open it up for additional questions. And we'll try to wrap this up in 45 minutes, maybe 50 minutes. But of course, throughout tonight's presentation, please feel free to pop in questions. While one of us is speaking, the other people can be certainly facilitating and answering specifics, but also I'm sure plenty of ideas are going to come up from you guys as you are watching. So please use the chat room to have those, to share those ideas when you have them, and let's keep this conversation lively. Today we're going to discuss using BrainPOP and Newsela together. We're not going to discuss the technical setup processes for a lot of the things that you're going to see about Newsela Pro or about my BrainPOP. We are not going to provide detailed overviews of all the features and tools for each product as well. There's plenty of archived webinars, both on BrainPOP Educators and on Newsela's professional learning support site, where you can get more building block setup tips about how to set things up and about how the tools work. We're going to kind of go right up to the idea of applying and using these things together. So just giving you that as a heads up so that you don't feel like, hey, I just wanted a really light overview, because we're going to get pretty deep about the connections. All right, so just being transparent about that. Good. All right, so what is BrainPOP? BrainPOP is a website that has hundreds of topics in many different subject areas that really help explain things to kids, allow kids to engage with the topic, and then also provide tools where students can show what they know. So that's why we say explanations, interactives, and tools. The explanations are in the form of movies. Most of you probably know that. And the Newsela helps with that as well, because Newsela is further explaining some of the concepts that are explored in the topic movie. But then we also have the interactives like the quiz, the challenge, the primary source, the activities. And most recently, we've introduced our tools like the Make a Map and Make a Movie, where students create on BrainPOP as a platform. So a lot of what Cathie is going to be talking about tonight with BrainPOP are using the Make a Map, the Make a Movie, and the coding, and some of our more high-touch features. It's important to note that those features are available to schools that have school subscriptions. So if you're an individual classroom and you just have the one classroom subscription, some of the features that Cathie talks about tonight may not be available to use as powerfully. But any school that has a BrainPOP subscription can create these individual accounts. I will paste a link into the chat room shortly with that gives you an overview of how to set up the individual accounts. But that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about integrating the tools. So I'm going to hand it off to Emily.
Okay, sounds good. So Newsela is an instructional content platform. We partner with some of the folks listed below, including Washington Post, LA Times, and we partner to publish nonfiction at 5 different reading levels. So you can go to the next slide, and you'll see that that is the teacher homepage for Newsela Pro subscribers. And in that top header, you see the library and the news. So the nonfiction that we publish is in 2 different categories. Current events nonfiction is what we're known for. So common topics that you'll find in the news. And then the library includes historical nonfiction. So nonfiction that you will find typical in categories such as primary sources, famous speeches, historical biographies. You can go to the next slide.
We got the skull.
Okay, so the power of Newsela is that it is adaptive. What that means is every article comes at 5 different reading levels. So above the headline, teachers will see a button that includes a number or the level max. Every article has the functionality for teachers to be able to assign it to their class with instructions, annotate the text to scaffold the reading experience, and to reply to what they're reading in writing through the write prompt and through the quiz. And so these features allow teachers to customize the reading experience for students, and then those insights filter up to the teacher binder where teachers can monitor student progress and sort of change their instructional approaches based on what you're seeing. Cathie is going to share a lot tonight about the connections between the annotation tool and Newsela with BrainPOP. And so we will hand it over to her.
So we're going to talk tonight on some just really simple to really complex ways you can take BrainPOP and Newsela and integrate them together. And I became certified. I've been certified with BrainPOP since 2015, and I've just, absorb tons and tons and tons of things that BrainPOP can offer. And when this summer at ISTE, when they announced that they were, meshing together with Newsela, I was very excited. But just to see people at ISTE and to see how excited teachers were was just such excitement. And I really wanted to learn more. So this summer, I took the online Newsela certification just to kind of dive deeper and to be able to train teachers at my own school. So just to give you some background and to understand how the two work. So I know in the chat some people were asking some questions. So really what we want to do is start embedding more nonfiction into our lessons. So taking a look right here, if you can see, I'm logged into Newsela is my son right here. Now, if you have a Newsela subscription, so you're already using Newsela at your school, it doesn't have to be pro, it could just be our kids log in and they use Newsela. So if you want to kind of intertwine and mesh those two together, what you want to do is have your students in one tab log into their Newsela account. And if you're new to Newsela, and you're a Google school, I would highly recommend making those two things seamlessly work together and just have your kids log in through Google. After you have that complete, you're going to then log into BrainPOP.com, not the app. The app is lovely and limiting, but you want to always go through the browser. Even if you're on iPads, you want to go to BrainPOP.com. And if you note, I have these 2 tabs open now. So as you can see, I'm on my beautiful topic page and Newsela's right there. And then this is going to be what the student sees when they launch from Newsela right here. They're going to see this. Hey, you're going to go to Newsela. You're going to leave BrainPOP and you're safely going to go right onto the realm of Newsela. The teacher view, if I was logged in as a teacher, I could view it on Newsela or I could assign that assignment. We're not going to get into assignments tonight, but there is a lot of really great features with the assignment that BrainPOP offers.
One sec, Cathie, before you keep talking, can you just turn it into presenter mode? If you click the present button up next to the little face icons, over over on the others. Yeah. No, because we're seeing your slides on the side.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The little presenter icon. Yeah, that one. And then it's going to go full screen. And then if you press the little button up the smaller,
it's loading.
That looks great. That looks great.
Sorry.
Is that good for you?
It's great for me.
Okay.
And I can't see anybody. And if there's something in the chat, just interrupt me.
I will.
So remember I was in those two tabs. So I have Newsela open, and now I have BrainPOP open, and then I launched through there. If you notice right here, that took me to a 620 reading level for my son. Now, my son would like everyone to know that his mom went on and tanked all of his reading lessons just so I could see how this works. So that's the lowest reading level for this particular article. The beauty of Newsela is it gives you a range of the same article, but it's going to be to a reading level so that everybody can be reading the same article and getting the same content out of that article, but it's actually challenging them to the level that they're comfortable with and kind of pushing them a little bit. So as you can see, if I were to log into BrainPOP, hit Newsela, and my students didn't have Newsela accounts, you can see right here, it's going to say Newsela for BrainPOP, and it's going to put them into the reading level of usually the second one from the top. Now, I could easily click this little arrow down and go to any reading level that I want to very easily. So why do you want to kind of take this nonfiction text, and why do you want to kind of blend that in with BrainPOP? Well, from a classroom teacher perspective and from a large experience of English language arts and reading, there is a huge push for nonfiction text. And a lot of my science and social studies teachers that I work with are always really trying to find really good nonfiction or nonfiction text that they can have with their students that's going to like push them, but also keep them at their reading level and make it make sense to them. So this is great for taking complex text, finding those facts, finding that background knowledge, critical thinking, problem skills, and analyzing, and kind of pushing it all together. So I keep this slide on here just in case someone's like, well, what's the purpose of this? The purpose of this is straight from the Common Core and any good standards that you really want your kids reading with a purpose. So let's talk about the good stuff. So how can I take BrainPOP and how can I make Newsela work for my instruction? So we're going to look at a BrainPOP topic page, and I picked media literacy because I think that everyone can talk about that. And if you look, I could launch Newsela right here on my topic page. And what can I do with the article? Well, from this, the most simplistic thing, I went from BrainPOP. We were talking about, what is fake news and how do I read critically? Well, I could take that Newsela article and I could start these discussion questions. Just as simple as that, compare a generalization, tell me more about that. And I wanted to start simple, and I took this straight from Edutopia. But then we can push it a little bit further with that article. Remember, there's a reading level associated with that. And these are those things that sometimes I as a teacher get into a rut sometimes, and I forget, like, oh, I could do a Socratic Seminar with this, or I could do a quick write, or a think, pair, share. So I just wanted to give you, just simple ideas that you could use with that Newsela article. But then if we wanted to keep pushing it and make BrainPOP work and Newsela kind of work hand in hand, remember those two great tastes that taste great together, well, let's push it. So let's say that my son just took and read this particular article and got 3 out of 4 correct on the quiz. Quick check. So what Newsela is known for is not just reading an appropriately based reading level text, it's the annotations. So when I were to double tap right on the text, I can annotate. Now I will warn you, as a teacher, you want your students to be able to annotate with purpose. Just like when I'm watching a BrainPOP movie, I'm not just throwing on a BrainPOP movie and checking my email for 4 minutes. I'm stopping that movie. I'm engaging with the media with my students. There's really good research that says any form of media, you have to have your students interact and like basically talk to it 3 different times for them to actually fully grasp and get meaning out of it. So the best thing you can do with Newsela is teach your kids how to annotate. So let's look at my little key down here. So when you go into Newsela and when you tap on something that you want to annotate, you can look and you can pick a color for that. So as a teacher, you're going to want to make an annotations guide. So here I made yellow relatable movie moments. Purple is a BrainPOP keyword match with the article. Green would be it answers the letter. And I took this pink as maybe I could extend it with the primary source for your information connection. So, and the pink would be more for like kids that have really dove deep into the movie and really, really dove deep into the article. And I want to push them, like keep finding more information, keep finding more information, keep putting that back in your head, keep analyzing that. So if you see, I could start, and this is in blue and place from, and my kids can start to look at different ways they can start annotating. So you always want to make a key that really helps the kids see what relates to the movie or not. So sponsored content, when my kids were reading, they knew that that was a direct match, and that was right in the BrainPOP keyword, like it was right in the movie. And it's like, oh my gosh, that was a BrainPOP vocabulary word. So those are some simple ways right then and there. You can say, okay, we're going to watch the BrainPOP movie, and then next we're going to interact with this article, and we're just going to do some quick annotations. Here's your annotation key. I would leave this key up on the board for kids to see. But let's go a step further. Let's really take the creation tools of BrainPOP and the creation of annotating from Newsela, and let's kind of blend those together. So one of my favorite tools on BrainPOP is the BrainPOP Make a Map, okay? And this is a great tool for taking, like, you can really see how kids are thinking, and it's pulling that information and turning it into knowledge. And if you haven't messed around with this tool, there are plenty of resources on BrainPOP that will teach you all of it. But I would highly recommend that you actually watch the concept map movie with your students, because it makes a whole lot more sense on how kids should start organizing information and how they should start making those connections. And as a teacher, it really helps you see their thinking. So we're going to take the Make a Map tool, and simply when you're in the Make a Map interface, one thing I do with my students is I'll do, okay, when you're pulling out your nodes, I want anything round to be Newsela as you're mapping, and anything rectangular to be BrainPOP. So that's a really quick way to take two different things and kind of have the kids distinguish between the two sources. And that's like one of the first things I did with my students, just to get them kind of rolling with the idea of, all right, we're taking two different things. We're taking a movie and we're taking written text, and now we're going to try to find connections. So this was the first thing we did. And then I kind of pushed it a little bit. So I used Make a Map in a very different way. What I did was I took all of the, in the Make a Map, I took all of those great vocabulary words, those key words, and I just pushed them out onto basically our canvas, our space, where we would normally make our map. And then what I kind of did was I took keyword match, example, answer a question, and not addressed. And what I wanted to do is basically have kids look at all of the information that was in that BrainPOP movie and try to match that by finding those pieces of information inside the actual text of Newsela. So, and what I did was I kept this bottom part, this key, up on the screen. So if you're looking, you can see, oh, wow, I found bias, and that was a keyword match. And where does this content come from? That answers the BrainPOP question. And then as the kids are on the side, they're actually prejudiced in favor or against one thing, a person or group. So they're actually defining all of these things on the side as they're interacting with the text. Here, they found a definition and then knew that was credibility. So they're going back and forth. And then at the end, what we did was we started to color code back from, okay, you have 10 minutes. I want you to try to find as many of these things back into the article. And then what the kids started to do was I stood at the board and said, now what color would you make this? And they were starting to explain why. What we really learned was those keywords and those questions in the keywords really do answer the same question. And that was very, very powerful for us to make that connection, that wow, it wasn't just like a BrainPOP movie, and wow, it wasn't just a Newsela article. They actually do connect when you're looking at them. So that's Make a Map. And then the integration between Newsela and BrainPOP Make a Movie. Now, Make a Movie is one of the coolest things on BrainPOP that was been just introduced probably around spring of last year. And it's exactly what it sounds like. Your students can actually make their own BrainPOP style movies, right down from the letter to, you know, all the animations, and you can put in those, you know, BrainPOP keywords. So what I thought I would do is, this is a very tough task for kids to do. I mean, we you know, especially because kids just want to like type all this information into the Make a Movie, and you want to say, no, you're making a script, so you're going to audio say that. So one thing I found was, let's actually make this a little bit easier for kids. So here's our annotations guide for the Make a Movie, and I took yellow for what was necessary for the script, purple for the movie keyword, green was unessential for the script, and pink was additional research. And what I had students do was interact with that text. So here they started to read that same article again, and then they started to pull out information to start their movies. So if you can see right from the beginning, they were like, unessential for the script. But social media, they thought, you know what, that should be a really important keyword that I'm gonna pull straight out of that text. And I'm gonna make that my keyword 1 in my movie. Now, not written in stone, but this is a great way for, you know, it's really hard as a middle school teacher to get kids to actually take notes, especially in today's technology world that we live in. So this is a great way to start to see their notes pan out. So, and to go back to the whole logging in with Newsela and all of that, as a teacher, if you did have Newsela Pro, you would be able to see all of this. If you don't have Newsela Pro, the students can at least save this. If students are just interacting with this text without Newsela accounts, they can still annotate it, but it's not going to save. So if you're going to go that route, screenshots are definitely going to be your friend at the end of class, just to let you know the difference. So you don't want to have your students do these great, spend all this time, and then for not, at the end of the period, it's going to go away. So you can see here, they're pulling out pieces that are necessary for the script, information that they think, oh, I might want to add this, but could use stats for Make a Map, but not helpful for my movie plans. And then they identified another keyword, so keyword 2. And then we moved on. So I usually, when I first started to do this, I had about 2 to 3 kids per group, because you don't want to make your groups so that you have kids just standing by. And we had one with the Newsela article open, one with the BrainPOP article open, and one kid there for additional research. And you really started to notice that kids, when they started to really annotate the articles, you were really seeing kids pull out, like, they might have had different ideas about what was necessary for the script or what was unessential for the script. But what I found fascinating were movie keywords. Kids were really able at 6th grade to pick those up, which I think is fascinating. And I think it's a really important skill that we're getting kids to move a little bit further along in their thinking and to kind of pick those things out. And then what's nice is, depending on how much time you have, you can really have a great conversation about necessary and unessential. So, you know, you only have this many scenes in a Make a Movie. You only have this much time. You know, what hits the cutting room floor? Just, you know, the same conversations that people are making, you know, great movies, like what hits the floor, what has to be in there. But what I found was kids were always saying, I need this keyword to be in there. I think this is really important. I think kids need to know what fake news and false information is. So it was very refreshing to see, especially so early in the school year. And as you can see, even some of the ideas on, you might have something like flagged was double marked. So it was a keyword, and it was also something that was necessary for the script. So you can see how it changed a little bit in the color, but it made it still important. And you can see down the side, still the notes are being taken right there. Great, another example It's really hard to, like I said, you want kids interacting with that text or that movie 3 times. And, after they watch it once, they're like, yeah, I kind of get it. But if you keep upping the ante with things and pushing two applications together like this, it really makes kids start to understand, interact, and actually analyze that text without just saying, okay, we're going to read it again. So as you can see down here, they thought this whole entire paragraph should just be something that they're going to additional research. But this is a great way to actually see them really seeing all the parts of the article, what's necessary, what's not. And the most important thing, I can't iterate again, is you want this bottom part up. That key is essential for anything. Even when you're like having kids do those make-a maps in the beginning, even if it's not Newsela based and they're just making a make-a map, you really want to have kids focused. Same with the making a movie. You don't just want things to be made because, they're fancy or they're pretty or they're cute. You really want kids to be engaged with text and engaged with a purpose in what they're doing, because then they take more ownership in that project. So what's really fascinating to kind of see is as we're kind of moving through all of these things, kids really start to take ownership and pride in their projects. And when they have this key right there, it's really, really beneficial and helpful for them as they're going through. A couple of
few quick questions.
Time or
can I pop in with a few questions, Cathie? Can I just pop in with a few questions that have come up in the chat room?
Papa will.
All right. So
yes.
First of all, the annotation guide you created, correct?
I did create. I just used like the same color that Newsela has. But yes, I created it.
Another question is, what grade students were you doing this with? Because it's some pretty intense. Sixth grade. Okay.
6th grade, all the same, like heterogeneous kids.
And so it's mixed, a mixed classroom. Are you doing mixed ability grouping as well? Is this a group project, or are you having to do it all individually? Students individually?
For the make-a-map things, I just kind of did whole class, and sometimes I just literally just looked at the person next to you and let's go. This one, for the make-a-movie, I was much more thoughtful in my groups, and I found it to be, I really tried to have a mix of Lexile levels to see how the kids would do. I tried to have a high, a middle, and a low all in the same group. And to be honest, I think that worked the best. And it really wasn't because, this one knew movies and this one did. I just felt like it was a great way to have them interact with the article. What I was most curious about doing it was, because when I first grouped them together, I'm like, you know what, they all read a different level article. I wonder which article they're going to they're going to pick. And I didn't say anything. And everyone just kind of, whoever was the person that was the one that had the article open, they just kind of went with it. And it just never really was an issue. So I thought about it afterwards and I'm like, oh, I should have probably had everyone on the same reading level, but it didn't matter. I don't even think it's noticed.
And also, I mean, that probably demonstrates a bit about the way that you set up your classroom culture, because, the kids are able to just kind of say, all right, we're just going to go with this one because it's there. And, in different kinds of classroom cultures, that may not be, that is the kind of thing that may require a bit more negotiation. So, but, it works for you. Another question was how, this is a lot of viewing, repeated viewing. And repeated viewing are those precious minutes that we have in class. So how much time, what you're presenting here, did you allocate for students to work on this project?
So we took time to watch, which we would have always done, watch the media literacy video, because, and we watched that as a whole class. I stopped. And then we went into the Newsela article right after that. So that was about one class period. The next day I introduced kind of hey, this is what I want you to do with this. So it probably took 4 to 5 days. And to be honest, I wasn't there because I was pulled from meetings for one of those days. So, and I gave the instructions. Even the person that was subbing for me was shocked. She said, I didn't even have to go around. The kids, were very, and I had pretty scripted directions on Schoology where the kids just know to go in. And so it was about 4 to 5 days.
Okay. And how long are your class periods?
40 minutes.
40 minutes. Okay. And it sounds like you had a really clear set of objectives for the kids, and by putting it all out there in Schoology, another tool that Cathie is schooled on, it made it clear, so she didn't have to be in the room.
No,
but when
a lot of it, they were
just
coming in and they were ready to go. So they're I have them, even though it's pretty early on, they're pretty trained to read the update before they get to class, and they just kind of walk in the door and get rolling. So,
cool. So there was one more question about how you got the keywords onto Make a Map, and presumably most of them were the prefabricated keywords that BrainPOP.
That's all those were.
Yep.
So if I went on to BrainPOP right here, and I'm just going to pick them. Can we still see my screen? We good?
Yep.
And I'm just picking the movie of the day. And if I go to Make a Map, all I did as the teacher, now I'm logged in as my son because I wasn't sure if I was going to need to do something, was I just went over to the side where it said keywords, and I just pulled them out. And I had up on the board on the side that little key at the bottom. Mm-hmm. But I obviously couldn't, I actually made the nodes. I apologize. I made the nodes down here with the key, with those annotations that I just had. So I literally just hurried up and pulled them out very, very quickly before class to have that. And
happen. You can actually create that as a template now too. You could create 4 nodes at the bottom with the 4 different colors for the key and push that to every student so that when they open up BrainPOP, it would say, hey, hey, you got an assignment. They could click and those nodes would be there. So that just quick clarification about that. We should continue on though, because you've got more to share, and we answered a lot of the questions that came up, though maybe not all of them, but we'll stick around at the end. So anyway, just wanted to stop you before going on to the next one, because there was a whole bunch of clarifying stuff that came up. Great.
I can't see the chat, so I'm guessing.
Right, that's why I was like, I'll wait until
you're not feverishly. And this one is something I always like. From my ELA background, it's what I find really cool about Newsela is that reading level that you have. So just one thing that my kids really enjoyed was looking at the difference between the lowest to the highest. Now how do we write more sophisticated? Kids love to kind of thrash and look at different ways that people are writing, especially when it's not their own. So a lot of times I'll put the lowest level and the highest level, and we'll look for those, differences. And I call that a taste test. I don't really say like, today we're going to look for more sophistication in writing. I was like, let's do a taste test. Like, what do you like about this one? What do you like about this one? What makes this one, pop more? And it really gets kids, I think, and students to start thinking and becoming more aware of their writing, and instead of using the same word choices all over, over and over again, it really, at least if anything, it gets them to use a thesaurus to come up with different words. And the same thing with the movie script. I haven't done this yet, but it kind of popped into my head as I was looking at it. Is you have kids writing movie scripts for their make-a movies. A lot of the movies now do have the actual movie transcript. And I think it's a great place for kids to start to see, like, how did BrainPOP do this? And so you can share those, you can put those up and share them. And what I'd like to do at some point is to have my kids see one side and the other side, and to look at the difference between, like, this is how I created a movie, and this is how BrainPOP created that movie as well. And I know we're like really cutting it close on time here. So, I am good, Andrew, unless you have more questions for me.
Great. Well, not too many more popped up while you were sharing that, but I think, it was just really interesting to see, the really thoughtful and creative ways of bringing the tools together. And from a BrainPOP perspective, using, the concept mapping tool, using the movie making tool, and even our transcripts, which people don't think about using, they're there for accessibility purposes, which is great, so kids can hear them read aloud. But they are not usually thought of as an entry point into thinking about writing screenplays. But it's, so much of what you've described tonight are just creative ways of bringing the tools together, and thinking about annotation as an exercise in and of itself, but also with direct application to a product they're making to a production activity, which is what we really want to be encouraging kids to do, to produce and make rather than just consume. And what's interesting about Newsela and BrainPOP is the reputations of these products are around consuming. Like, oh, BrainPOP is where you go to consume movies, and Newsela is where you go to consume nonfiction text at various levels, which is true. But when you use that as catalysts for production, you are getting so much more out of these products than just the consumption piece. So that's kind of my little soapbox, summation here. I'm curious, folks, as we're wrapping up, maybe think a little bit about what inspired you from some of what Cathie said. And it could be as simple as like, I need to set up individual accounts for BrainPOP, or it could be, I really am excited about the concept of Newsela Pro and pulling together, getting feedback about how my students are doing text highlighting. Or, I really like that idea. I'm going to try something tomorrow or next week. So if you're inspired, take a minute just to think, and it's great to pop it in the chat room, because that is your first step, articulating that inspiration, because you have it in your own head. If you don't put it out there, you can kind of let go of it and feel like, I never really put it out there. But if you actually type that inspiration into a chat room, then you may actually follow through on it. There's no expectation, but it's a good mental process. Kind of like at the end of the class, say, hey kids, write out a tweet to summarize what happened today. Even if they don't tweet it out, to summarize in 140 characters what you discussed in class today is a really good little mental exercise. So let's see some of the things that people are inspired with. So Kelly's going to begin doing the annotation. Awesome. And excited to start movies. Jamie's thinking about this from a project-based learning perspective. I think that's clearly what Cathie is articulating, maybe not using that specific word. Let's see what else. Great examples using. You'd like to do the exact example. This is what Larissa says. Cool. All right. Lori is new to BrainPOP, but she's excited to learn about the map and the movie tools. Great. So
it seems like
sorry.
I was just going to say, it seems like a lot of people are sharing that they like the color coding cross connection. And I think that that's sort of what makes, when you are switching between screens, that's the consistency for students that makes projects like these really possible in the classroom.
And just sharing that with kids, putting that on the board is key for either Newsela, BrainPOP, meshing the two. They need to see, and they need to have that there as a reminder.
And, your learning management system is Schoology. That's what Cathie has. And to make sure you have a very visual learning management system that really presents all of these different features and how they work together in a visual way really can help too. Cool. So I love everyone sharing all the ideas. It's like the chat is just going nuts. I can't summarize it all. I'm going to take the sharing privileges back from Cathie. I'm going to wrap us up. Cathie is an example of both a certified BrainPOP educator and a Newsela certified educator. And you can see the power of linking those two things together when you know them really well. So to find out more about the BrainPOP certification, I'll pop a link in the chat right at the end. Emily, you can do the same for Newsela, but we highly encourage them. They're both free programs, and it really helps you become more of a power user through our processes. BrainPOP and Newsela can both come to you. So if you want more in-person training, we have those available. So it's also important to argue that, to let you know that. For the certification, those are both free programs. Of course, if we come to your schools or to your districts, that's something that needs to be paid for. But you can hear from people like Emily or myself if we come to visit. So that's just a quick plug for that. We thank you so much for spending almost 50 minutes of your life learning more about BrainPOP and Newsela. We recognize time is our most precious commodity in 2017, and attention. And so the fact that all of you came and devoted the time and attention to us means a ton. We're products, and you all are teachers. You're doing the good work. And Emily and I both know, because we were former teachers and current teachers at upper or higher education level, but you guys are really doing the important work. And that's why both of us go to work every day feeling that we can empower you to do that work most effectively. So thanks for spending this time with us. We really, really appreciate it. Emily, I'll let you say goodbye, and then Cathie, you can wrap it up, and then everyone, you can go.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in as well. I was happy to see a lot of educators that I know join in, and I'm excited to work with any of you to think more about this connection, and I'll turn it over to Cathie.
Thank you. I know it's probably, you've all had very busy days and, teaching all day and then coming to do a webinar, greatly appreciated. And if you have questions specifically about the activities that I went over, just tweet me or direct message me on Twitter or email me, and I'll be happy to give any insight I can give you. But I appreciate you giving up your time and your evening, because that's tough.
You guys are great. Thank you so much.